Everybody, this is Dream, and we have a nice 6-game slate for Draftkings today that starts at 7 p.m. We have some pretty good matchups on the board, and we got some good pitchers, we got some really bad pitchers, and we got some guys in the middle. So we got a little bit of everything in this slate. So overall, I'm going to get into it. First of all, I'm going to tell you the teams I think are the most stackable. Houston, St. Louis, and then the Chicago Cubs, and then Toronto is kind of stackable today. So 4 teams that we could really potentially stack. Even Kansas City and Cincinnati don't look terrible. So, at any rate, let's go ahead and get into the pitchers I do like. So for the pitchers to start off, I'm going to start talking about Mr. Yu Darvish. So Darvish has 3 games against Arizona this season. All of them are above 17 points, and 2 of them are above 22. And he's a little bit less expensive than the top 2 guys, and so he seems like he's in play as a potential starter. He also has a decent amount of strikeouts, so that definitely helps. He's got some upside there. Then the next guy I want to talk about is Alex Manoah. Let me fix this. Yep, there we go. Sorry if I'm butchering his name. Now, he's got 3 games against Baltimore, and only one of them were actually good. The other 2 were below 15 fantasy points, and so he is a little bit risky in this situation, especially because Baltimore's been playing well. And as you can see, like 1 game 14, 1 game 9, and he hadn't really gotten strikeouts against Baltimore this season. I think he's got one of the, yep, here's the other game where he scored 29. So he had 1 good game in the 3, but even then, so he's got 19 strikeouts in those 3 games and 7 earned runs, including 2 home runs. So he's a little bit hit or miss, and he's not as good on the road as he is at home. And so he's somebody you have to consider, but I don't think he's as ideal considering that we have Jarvis and Javier and Jordan Montgomery available. The next guy I'm getting into is Javier for Houston. In 4 games versus Texas, he's had 4 games above 15, but only 1 game above 20. And so he's a little bit like, I don't know, and he's not, he is getting strikeouts 27 in 4 games, but he does have some potential to like cap out at around the 20-point mark in this particular matchup. And because he does tend to give up a couple runs and home runs and stuff like that. So, as you can see in those 4 games against Texas, he has 3 given up home runs and 8 earned runs, so good for 2 earned runs a game. So he's kind of capped on what he can do, but, pretty much everybody's capped on what they can do today. So if you're picking between Manoah and Javier, then, they're kind of even in the aspect. I would say Javier is probably slightly better just because he's a slightly better pitcher and has a little bit higher strikeout rate. Montgomery for St. Louis is the 4th guy I'm going to talk about. Now, he's actually had 5 wins in his 6 starts against St. Louis. For St. Louis, sorry. In his 6 games since he came to St. Louis, he had 5 wins, and you can see his stats have improved pretty good. He's only had 2 games since being on the team where he's given up an earned run, and only one of those was actually a rough game, and that was against Atlanta, who's been absolutely smoking the ball lately. Now, he doesn't get the strikeouts that some other guys get, so that's a little bit of a thing, but he's also a little bit cheaper, so you can afford to pay down here. And he's going against Washington, who's just been abysmal lately. He's got a high upside to get the win in this game, which gives you 4 bonus points, obviously. So if he can stick in the game, and if he doesn't have too much issue with the team, he should be okay. He's actually had no games under 5 innings since he's been with the St. Louis Cardinals. So I look for him as somebody that has some pretty good upside, despite the fact that he's not the biggest strikeout guy. He's a ground ball guy for sure. But I think he has the potential to score a decent amount of points simply because he doesn't allow many runs. And that's definitely beneficial in this matchup since he's been with St. Louis. So overall, I think he's a pretty solid pitcher in this projection. Then I'm going to talk about a couple guys that I don't really recommend, but they have some weird upside. So Dean Kramer for Baltimore, he recently played against Toronto and scored 23 fantasy points. I don't really see him redoing that, and his cap is kind of at 20 points overall anyway. Even against bad teams, he doesn't get better than that. But if you just really need to save money, You could try to take a flyer and hope that Toronto continues to, well, it doesn't have the type of game that they had today, but I just don't expect that. Um, the other guy that has some weird potential is Tommy Henry for Arizona against San Diego. He's had 3 games this season that he pitched pretty well when it comes to starting, but he's had out of 6. But he's only getting about 20 fantasy points and the best ones. So he's still capped, but he's a little bit less expensive if you're just desperate for a guy. Can't recommend him really, but he's in that situation. So let's go ahead and get into catchers that I like. I don't know if this guy's gonna actually start, but if he does, then we definitely have him as one of the cheapest options available, which is Danny Jansen. Now he's kind of boomer bust, but at catcher on Draftkings, a boomer best pitcher is not a bad thing because he can score some points, and it's really hard to find value at catcher today. We don't have like Atlanta playing or a couple of other guys like LA Dodgers or stuff like that have some cheaper guys when they play. But we do have Toronto, and then so Kirk is also a good option. He actually hit a home run today, which is nice. I expect that this Baltimore Toronto game to be similar to the first two, 7-3, 6-9. I think that's going to be a similar aspect for this type of game tomorrow, or for today, excuse me. The other guy that I like is MJ Melendez. He's just in an overall nice little plus matchup, and he's been hitting the ball pretty good, 7.4 the last 10 games with a home run. I think he has got some option play here. Adley Rutschman, if anybody on Baltimore is going to get to Manoah, it's going to be him. And so I have expectation. He's actually had 2 really good games against Toronto. Actually 3 in the last week. So I definitely like him as an option in this matchup. He's been hitting the ball exceptional. And then finally, I have Salvador Perez. Obviously, he's not been hitting the ball as good as some guys, but he's still batting .325 with 9.8. He's just in a tougher matchup, so you do have to be a little bit careful here. Then let's go ahead and get into the first baseman. I've got Nick Pratto as an option at Kansas City. And just for the record, I don't know why I wrote down besides Salvador Perez, he's not in a plus matchup. He's actually in a really good plus matchup. He's hitting the ball great. I think I miswrote what I was trying to say there. So, anyhow, just want to clarify that because I just realized he was going up against Morris. So Pratto's been pretty good lately. He's very boomer bust, but he's averaging 9.5 last 10 games. So I think he's somebody that's worth taking a look at. Then another guy to take a look at, if you believe that Toronto's a good matchup today, is Kevin Biggio. He's been hitting the ball pretty well lately, surprisingly good. Now, he only scored 2 points yesterday and 1 at bat, and he got walked once, and then I think they took him out at some point, which is a little bit of a risk with him. But overall, he's been hitting the ball pretty well, and if he gets some good hits in the game, then he'll stick through the whole game. Vlad Jr. is obviously a home run threat every time he comes out. He had one a couple games ago, and he didn't actually score in the last 2 games, but he doesn't strike out either, so it's just a matter of, getting one to go over the wall. And then I got 2 Hail Mary options. Spencer Steer for Cincinnati. He's been hitting the ball only in 4 games, but he's hit a home run and a couple doubles. He has some really good stuff. If you look at his AAA stats, 259, 354, 479 with 15 home runs. He's a guy that can hit the ball. He's definitely a good Hail Mary option. And then also Uliski, I can't say his name. Let's just do it like this. Guerrero Jr. He for Houston. Now he hadn't hit the ball well, but he's cheap. And he's in a really good matchup against against Texas. And so I think that he's in a plus matchup. And like I said, he's extreme Hail Mary. I don't really love his stats lately, but I think he can get somewhere between 5 and 9 points and pay off. If he can get 6 points, then you can feel comfortable saving money with him. At second base, the first guy I've got written down is Michael Massey for Kansas City. Obviously, these guys are a plus matchup. He's been getting some points lately. 5.6 last 10, batting .314. he hasn't he's not played a ton of games this year. He's not a huge home run threat necessarily, but he can hit the ball pretty well. And I think that he's somebody that's a good Hail Mary option at second base. Obviously, I've got a couple. I also have Biggio here again, but he's also a good option. Then one guy that a lot of people are liking right now is Gunnar Henderson, and I concur. He's been pretty good. He's cheap enough that even if he doesn't have a huge game, he can still keep you happy, So obviously he's a little bit hit or miss lately, but he's still trying to get into the league and get comfortable and stuff. But you look at his stats from the minors, he was doing super 288 with 11 home runs, 10 stolen bases in 65 games. So he's somebody that we can definitely take a look at as a Hail Mary option. So three top options here are Jose Altuve. I mean, he's just been crushing the ball as of late, and I look for him to continue. 341, 12 fantasy points a game, actually almost 13. Jonathan India for Cincinnati. He's been hitting the ball pretty well as well. 378 with 9.3. I definitely like what he's been doing. And then Tommy Edman for St. Louis. Now, he's a bit more expensive than I would like, but he's hitting the ball so well. 4 home runs in the last 10 and 368 with 11 fantasy points a game. It's hard to argue. And I threw another Hail Mary in at this position just because of the way he's been scoring about 6 points a game is Nicky Lopez. And in this particular slate, because it's only 6 games, it's going to be good to try to find some sneaky cheap guys so that we can pay up for some better dudes and keep some of the good pitching in our lineup. So overall, I think that's a pretty good second base slate for us. Quite a few guys to choose from there, all different price ranges. Third base was a little harder to find good value here, but obviously Gunnar can go in this position as well. So if you like somebody else at second base, you can move him to third. Christopher Morel for the Chicago Cubs. Now, he's not been hitting the ball well, but he's just in such a good plus matchup here. And he did take a game off a couple games ago, and yesterday he did score 9 points. I think he can do something like that again, and if he does, that will pay off for us. It's a nice little plus matchup for the Cubs in general, and so I think he's somebody you have to take into consideration. Excuse me. Alex Bregman, he hasn't been hitting the ball right as great, but he's in a really nice plus matchup, and so he's somebody you have to consider. But my favorite play at third base is probably Matt Chapman for Toronto. He's been hitting the ball pretty well. He's kind of due for some home runs. He hadn't hit one in 10 games at least. I think it's probably more like 15 games. Since 820 against the Yankees. So we look at him as somebody that just he's due. And I like it when guys are due because when they hit it, it just, they'll have gigantic games sometimes when that happens. And he just looks like he's just poised. I don't know. I just have a feeling about him today. Bobby Witt Jr. has obviously just been scoring a lot of points, even though his batting average is terrible in the last 10. But you can see that he's having big games a lot. So his price is obviously extremely high for himself. I would like his price to be, a full $1,000 cheaper. But, if you have the money, if you try to save on pitching and you want to try to pay up for him, then he's somebody to have an option. And then a super Hail Mary option, Tyler Freeman for Cleveland. So the thing here is that he's really not having games. He's only had a couple games where he scored 0 or 3 points. And he's been having a lot of 5 and 7, 8 point games. And if he can get a 5, 7, or 8 point game in this particular matchup, which is definitely possible, he's somebody that you could sneak in there. He's probably the biggest Hail Mary option of the entire slate. He's just, he's not super good, but, he's somebody that can just kind of squeak you some points if you just really need it, and he fits the price point you need. At shortstop, my first secondary option is going to be Mr. Nico Horner. Sorry for butchering your name if I did. He's averaging 8 points a game. He gets steals and doubles, triples, home runs. He can do a little bit of everything. He's not a huge home run threat, but he's still decent. He's got 4 triples on the season, 17 stolen bases, and he's been getting a couple stolen bases lately. They like to steal with him, and that gives him some upside as a pretty cheap option. Obviously, Mr. Pena for Houston, who hasn't been hitting the ball great, but he still has potential for home runs and stuff like that. he's got to be somebody considered. He feels a little bit like he's due too, but he is at home, so that's going to help him as well. My favorite expensive guy is Bo Bichette. I think this guy is my home run pick of the day, if not the top pick of all. He's batting in the last 10 games, 5 home runs, 488, 17 fantasy points a game. He's had 33, 46, 13, 7, 16, 24, 0, 9, and 10 and 12. Like, that is just absolutely insane. He kind of had some lulls in the middle of the season, but man, does he like to just smash on Baltimore. Look at these stats. He's got 6 home runs in 12 games versus Baltimore. I expect that to continue. I really like him, the way he's been playing, and yeah, so if you don't like him, though, and you want to pay down some, Hae-Sung Kim for, I don't know how to say his name, I'm sorry, from the Padres, is in a plus situation. His price is too high for what he is going to probably do, but he is somebody that has home run potential in a game like that, and so he's somebody you have to take a look at least, just to, you know, get a look. Obviously, Bobby Witt Jr. already mentioned, and Nicky Lopez already mentioned, so that's pretty good. We got pretty good, like, middle infield options today. Some days we don't really get that, especially on the smaller slates, but today looks really solid. And the outfielders, we have some really good outfielders to choose from. So I got 2 Hail Marys to start off, which are Drew Waters for Kansas City. The thing with him is that he's kind of a boomer bust situation, but he does have some potential here. He's not he's not played in a ton of games this season, but he gets doubles and home runs occasionally so far. So he does strike out a lot, though, so you do have to be a little bit wary of that. Also, Isbell for Kansas City. Kansas City is in a really nice match situation, and he's been hitting 6.2 per game. So he's a guy that you could squeeze in for $2,200 if you really need it. He's not really got a lot of home run potential, but he does have tendency to get RBIs and stuff like that. And he can have a couple big games here and there. So he doesn't need a lot of points to make you happy. And so that's always a benefit as a Hail Mary option. And then I got 4 secondary options. One of them is Franmil Reyes for the Chicago Cubs. He's been hitting the ball pretty well. 7.9 last 10. He's really improved lately. I really like what he's doing. Suzuki, also for the Cubs. He's kind of in a similar situation where he's just been hitting the ball really well. 351, 8.2. I almost wanted to make him a top option, but he hit a home run yesterday, and he's not a huge home run hitter necessarily, but he can hit them. But I don't know that he's really a big home run threat in this particular game, but I still like him as an option overall. Then another secondary guy is Lars Nootbaar. Obviously, you can save some money here. His batting average is really suspect, but he can hit home runs and get some RBIs and stuff, and he averages 7.4 last 10. And then my other final secondary option is Trey Mancini, who, when he hits a home run, he usually is flashy. Now, he hasn't been good as of late. He's 125 with 3.4. He is so due for a home run. I don't know if it's going to happen today. It's been since 8:25 against Minnesota from when he hit his last one. He feels due. If he starts, which he doesn't start every game, that's part of the problem that I think he has in Houston, is that he just doesn't get the regular treatment like he did in Baltimore. But I still think he's in a good position and a plus matchup. Then I have 4 top tier guys. My first one is Ian Happ. Yesterday's video, I was like, man, this dude just popped up to the top, and so I went with him. Man, against Cincinnati in 11 games, he's got 4 home runs, 12.3 fantasy points a game. Yesterday, he got 16. I mean, that was my home run pick of the day yesterday. He's not my home run pick of the day today, but he's almost, he's like just a pinch off. He comes up in my projections a little bit under what he was yesterday, so he's really close. I think he's somebody that you can roster and feel confident that he's going to be able to do something for you, and he's pretty inexpensive at $3,800. The other 3 guys that I have are a little bit more expensive. Profar for San Diego, he's at $4,200. He's been hitting the ball pretty well. He's kind of been hit or miss lately, but he's still doing okay. He's not ideal, but he's still a pretty good option. And then the final 2 are George Springer and Toscar. Now, Hernandez. Now, here's the thing. If you think Toronto is going to get to Baltimore's pitcher, then you've got and you want to do a stack, then, Springer and Hernandez are guys that you definitely could utilize. But if you don't, then you might want to stay away from them, just because they're priced pretty heavily, pretty expensively. I really like Toscar today. I don't know. He's like sometimes you just have that feeling in your head, and of course you know that you're supposed to have one home run pick. Everybody knows that rule, but I've got two. It's really Toscar Hernandez and Bo Bichette. So, and technically I have three. Uh, with who was the other guy? I don't even remember. Maybe Vlad Jr. Yeah. So yeah, I think that there's several guys that can hit home runs today, and I definitely like I think Ian Hop's really shot great, but Bo Bichette is definitely my home run pick of the day. Uh, so yeah, if there's anybody you think I left out and should have included, feel free to leave a comment below. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to leave that below. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. Before I get in, I want to appreciate the two people that have joined the Patreon. And they do get access to a spreadsheet that I write up, that I utilize for the video. I also have a link below for that, and I have a link below for Discord, which I created. There's only a couple people in there right now, but looking for more people. We just like to discuss what's happening throughout fantasy baseball and fantasy sports in general. So feel free to come in if you want. So shout out to Gerald P and Patrick B, and have a nice day, guys.